What's up, guys? Welcome into MLB DFS Live for, Tuesday, May 25th. I am your host, Ben Hosser. I'm joined by Rueb. He's got no camera today as he is at his friend's house getting ready to go to the Nets game tonight. So that's actually pretty cool. Hopefully you have a good time. I'm sure you will. What's your thoughts on the slate? I think this is a really fun slate. There's tons of pitchers, tons of stacks. It's not really cold anywhere. Like the weather's starting to heat up, and I think in general this is just a really good slate. So I'm super excited for this slate. What is your take here, Rup?
What is up, Ben? How are you today? I'm good, man. I'm excited for this Nets game tonight, but ready to dive into this baseball slate before I head out. But yeah, I agree. I mean, we have some elite arms, some mispriced guys on DraftKings, some chalk we hate. I mean, it's a perfect baseball slate, right?
Yeah,
This really does feel like the first midsummer slate, like a real big one, really good weather across the board, good arms, like yeah, a lot to break down.
Yeah, tons to break down. So we'll dive right in. If you guys have questions, drop them in the chat. Drop them in YouTube chat. So I think the stream is up on Periscope and stuff. I just noticed. So if you guys do have questions, go to the YouTube link and drop them in there. We will answer them. Yeah, so I agree. I think there's some terrible chalk on this slate, in my opinion. So we'll get that out of the way because we're going to talk about pitchers first. We always go pitchers, stacks, and then positional plays if you guys are new here. So we'll start with pitchers. Tons of top-end pitchers on this slate. DeGrom is back, and he gets Colorado. So I'm scrolling down here to look at that team total. It's right around 2 runs, which is just terrible. 6.5 over/under on that game. So we get him back. We have Max Scherzer, we have Corbin Burns, Clayton Kershaw, Joe Musgrove, like tons of good pitching on this slate. So this is my point when we talk about bad chalk group. Andrew Heaney is 6,200 on DraftKings. This happens. I feel like every week he's underpriced. And people want to play him in DFS. He's probably going to be the highest owned pitcher on the slate. Would you agree with that? I would assume. If not, he's going to be the second highest. But I think he's probably going to end up the highest owned pitcher on DraftKings today.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of the only guy in that tier that people are really excited to play. So, that naturally comes with a lot of ownership on a big slate where there's a lot of bats that we want to prioritize. I think the popular build today will be to go Heaney with one of the popular guys with one of the expensive guys in Scherzer and DeGrom. We can kind of get into which we prefer of those two. Even as, the resident Met fan, I'm still kind of leaning Scherzer on this slate for the slight discount. Just a little bit of concern with DeGrom coming off the IL stint, that they won't push him past that 100 pitch mark, even though Rojas has come out and said that there's no hard limit on him. We just know that Max is going to work deep into games. There's really no no worry at all with him. DeGrom would have to exceed him in strikeouts by, I don't know, what do you think, like 2 or 3 in order for him to outproduce Scherzer on this slate? So I do lean Scherzer. And then another guy at the top here is Lucas Giolito, who I think actually goes under-owned today against a Cardinals lineup that struggles against right-handed strikeout pitchers. His changeup's one of the best pitches in baseball, and anytime he's going to be low-owned, I'm very interested. I'm not sure what to do with Heaney today, to be honest with you. I mean, it's with a 7.7 implied K total, there's a lot of upside at that 6.2K price tag, but he comes with a lot of risk as well, giving up a 47% hard contact rate, 8% walk rate. I mean, I'm not sure what to do with Heaney today. What are you doing with him, Ben?
Yeah, so if we want to get Heaney out of the way here and talk about this, I have no problems generally playing him in DFS. The problem is he's always cheap because he has he's a really variant pitcher, right? Like he can go out and strike out a lot of guys, but he gives up a lot of power. He gives up home runs. So he can have these bad starts, especially when he doesn't have this control, which is often. So generally I don't have a problem playing with him, but when he's really high owned, this is the type of guy that I don't want to play. I don't really think I've played him at all this season, and he's been pretty chalky a couple times. If this were a smaller slate, I would be interested. But this is, like you said, this is a 13 game slate. This is probably one of the better slates of the season thus far. We have those names on the slate: DeGrom, Scherzer, Corbin Burns, Jack Flaherty, Musgrove, Lucas Giolito. Why do you want to play like a 40% owned Andrew Haney with all of those options on the slate? I just don't understand it.
Yeah, I think another thing to take into consideration on a 13 game slate is that we're going to have value. I mean, we already have this Twins lineup, not to, get ahead of ourselves here, but there are some underpriced bats here that we can use to jam in these high-end pitchers. I know one guy that you're interested in is Corbin Burns, pretty heavily. I mean, I love Corbin Burns. You've been trying to snatch him off of me in our dynasty league. I've reached like 2 rounds ahead of ADP to grab him, and that's paying off. The one guy that we mentioned before the show that we both think is going to go under owned today is Joe Musgrove. The Brewers lineup that they've been rolling out has been comical. They'll have Vogelbach and Yelich back in there today. I'm pretty sure they sat yesterday against the lefty, but still, I mean, there's a lot of strikeouts in this lineup. We saw Snell got blown up a little bit last night, but he still was on pace to have double-digit Ks before the walkathon that he had there in that fourth inning. So he's most certainly interesting. There, like you said, just so many options that a 40% owned Andrew Heaney, like, yeah, you could get buried if you fade him, but you're not dead if you fade him and he just has an average game, which is obviously in the range of outcomes.
Yeah, so we'll talk. I don't know how I would say it is. I'm not playing Haney on this slate. That's my personal choice. If you want to play him in cash games, 100,000%, I think that's completely fine at his price. I don't think I would play him in tournaments regardless, just because of the ownership, because he does have that he has that downside, especially on FanDuel, man, like where you only get one pitcher. Tough for me to stomach playing him at pretty high expected ownership there. So I think regardless at tournaments I'm out. I'm probably just not going to play him altogether. But how I would break this down is I think we have a couple tiers at pitcher. You have DeGrom and Max, those guys, it's their own tier, right? So I do agree. I lean Max over DeGrom, but I don't know. So DeGrom, he threw what, like 70, 75, 76 pitches in his first start of the year. I think you probably see like, what would you say, 85 pitches today? 80? I don't know. He only threw like 50 pitches in that rehab start. Am I correct in that? I don't think he threw very many pitches.
No, it wasn't a lot. He only faced 9 batters, but still, I think he'll still have like a normal leash today. Like if he gets through 6 innings and he's in the 90s, yeah, they probably pull him. But it's not going to be like, oh, he's only through 5, he's at 80 pitches, let's get him out of there. Especially if he feels good and it's a close game, I don't think that's the kind of scenario we're looking at with him. Like I really don't think it's a hard limit of, that 80, 85 pitches. Like if he's feeling good, they're going to let him work. He's just not a 120 pitch pitcher like guys like Scherzer and Cole and Bauer. And you know what I mean? He just works really efficiently. And that's why he's able to get deep in games while staying right around the 100 pitches where they like to keep him at.
Yeah, so I think for tournaments, that's completely fine because he can be really efficient. He can rack up strikeouts and go 5 innings, even if he's not not going super long pitch wise. So I think for tournaments that's fine. Cash games I lean towards Max, and then the second tier I think you have Musgrove. It's everyone below those two, but on this specific slate, I don't have a ton of interest in Flaherty. He doesn't strike guys out enough for me. Don't have a ton of interest in Barrios. Doesn't strike guys out enough for me. And even like Tyler Mahle, not a ton of interest for me on this slate, and that just shows you how deep the slate is, right? Mahle's a guy that on some slates has been pretty chalky this year, and I just have zero interest in him on the slate. So I think how I would rank the second tier of pitchers would be number 1, Corbin Burns, number 2. I think the clear 3 are Burns, Musgrove, and Giolito, and it's kind of just deciding 2 and 3 because I think Burns is definitely number 1 for me. 2 and 3 is between Giolito and Musgrove. It's kind of just deciding what you want to do there. Giolito, I don't really think anything has been wrong with him, right? He had some pretty bad starts, one of which that negative 17 DK point game, I think it was pretty clear he was tipping his pitches to the Red Sox. It was like that weird game that was like 11 a.m., whatever day that is, that Boston plays that game super early in the day. But I'm not concerned about that. And then he had some other down games, and they were talking about how his release point on his pitches was kind of messed up, and he was trying to get back to what he was doing last season. And then he came out in that last start against Minnesota and threw 8 innings of 1 run ball with 11 strikeouts. So he might be back on track. Like you said, it's a really good matchup for a righty with how right-handed heavy that lineup is. And Musgrove is just good, and the Brewers lineup is terrible. So I think those are the clear 2 and 3 in the next tier behind Burns for me.
Yeah, I agree. Just some honorable mention to some more GPP plays for me. Kevin Gossman, just for a little bit more, he could be a pivot off of the Heaney chalk. He's coming in with some ownership, but I mean a fraction of the ownership compared to Heaney, and just for that little price difference, in GPPs, that's a place where I'd like to go. I actually think that I mean, for me in GPPs, it's Lucas Giolito tonight. For me in that second tier, I'm actually okay using him as my SP1 just because I know he has the upside to match those guys at the top in Scherzer and DeGrom. I mean, we've seen it in the past, and the White Sox will let him work deep if he's working efficiently as well. Yeah, other than that, I don't know. All the other guys are going to be low owned. You could get Kershaw at low ownership, Kluber low ownership, Rich Hill. I mean, it's a big slate. You could go a lot of different directions, but all those guys we named are my priority plays for tonight.
Yeah, you guys can see if you're watching this, not just listening, I have the Bet Karma Live Trends page pulled up. This is free. You can access it every day. Cardinals team totals down to 3-4, opened around 3-6. So definitely some merit. And I don't know. I mean, Lance Lynn was pretty decently owned last night. I know it was a smaller slate, but Giolito has much higher strikeout upside than Lance Lynn. So it's just funny that he was pretty high owned last night, and then people, don't want to play Giolito tonight.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's obviously a different slate context, but I'm definitely interested in going right back to the Giolito well. I think maybe even targeting like two guys in that second tier, like playing like a Musgrove and Giolito or Giolito and Corbin Burns is a way to get unique in GPPs while still, having incredible upside at the pitcher position.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think we covered pitcher pretty well in terms of what we want to do. Like, I'm just not going to play Heaney personally. I have no issues if you want to in cash, but I'm just not going to play him. I like a lot of these top end guys. I like the double spend on DraftKings again tonight. Yeah, but if you guys have questions on any other pitchers, you can go ahead and drop those in. We will answer them. We'll talk about some stacks here real quick before we head to the positional analysis. I don't know. There's a lot of stacks you could make a case for on this slate. So I'm not going to say, like, if you guys like a stack that we don't necessarily talk about, I'm not going to say that is wrong because there's just a lot of spots you can go. I think that the clear best spots and the ones that could pick up maybe some ownership even on a bigger slate, number 1, Minnesota against Dean Kremer. This guy is just not good. He allows home runs. His strikeouts were decent last season, and then just like the more he's thrown this year, the more his strikeouts have just tailed off. He looked really bad in his last start, and I don't know. I like the way this Twins lineup sets up today. So I think they're probably going to get some ownership. You can see their team totals up to 6.4, minus 210 favorites. And then the Braves, I think, are interesting. The Braves are just a team I like to play, right? I feel like I play the Braves quite a bit in fantasy, honestly.
Yeah, you're always on the Braves. You're playing 2 of them every single night, and if not, you always have Acuna. So I wouldn't be surprised if I see Acuna in your core again tonight. But yeah, similar page for me. Obviously, the Twins are in the best spot. I can see myself having 3 or 4 of them tonight. A 5-man stack with one of the cheaper guys is definitely interesting there at the bottom of the order. I think it was Larnach who hit a home run last night. So definitely interesting there. I think there's one GPP stack that really jumps off the page, and it was actually Sam who put me onto them before, and made me look into them more. But the San Francisco Giants tonight playing in Arizona, they have over a 5-run total here, and I don't see any ownership on them. So if you're utilizing our what do you call it? It's our stacking chart that we have in the slate breakdown. They're a team that really jumps off the page as someone that we want to target in GPPs. But yeah, like you said, just a lot of different places to go tonight. How do you feel about this Yankees team? I think that they might pick up some ownership. Luke Voigt leading off, Glaber in the 2-hole, and then obviously we have Judge and Gio there at 3-4 for them. Gary Sanchez, a lot of power at the catcher position. Not a place that I'm finding that I need to spend up today at catcher, but I mean, good way to get contrarian. What do you think about the Yankees against Steven Matz?
Yeah, the Yankees are always in play against a lefty. I think Matt has been pretty good for the majority of the season. He looked pretty bad in that last start, but it was at home in that really small ballpark. Yeah, I don't have any
That
problems with the Yankees against the lefty. Pretty much
the
any Yankees.
Glaber price really stood out to me. 3.7K at shortstop really stood out to me as a potential target.
Yeah, and he's given up a home run I think in every start except for 2. So he's probably going to give up at least 1 tonight. So I definitely think that's interesting. The Giants, I think, is a great call by Sam. Honestly, I believe the roof is going to be open in Arizona, so the weather's going to be good. Martin, he was like a former top prospect. Looked not so great in that first action we saw from him last week, and then like Arizona's up there with the Braves and like the Tigers. Of their bullpen is just terrible. So I like to attack Arizona with bats because if they get that starter out early, it could just be a really big game because their bullpen is just not great.
Yeah, another lineup that's been really ugly with Trout out of it is the Angels, but they have a really healthy team total as well. There's some interesting cheap spots that you can target there. Justin Upton, who should be hitting near the top of the order, and then Anthony Rendon against a lefty is someone that I'm always interested in. Still waiting for that big time breakout game. I played him, I think it was last week. He went like 3 for 4 for me and hit like 2 singles off the top of the wall that should have been home runs. I was tilting my face off. It was so bad.
Yeah. I think we covered it. I think the Indians maybe could get some ownership just because people know Scooble gives up home runs, but he started to look a lot better, right? Like he looks like he's finally figuring it out a little bit. The strikeouts have come back up. His velocity's up in the last couple starts. I don't love to stack the Indians because I just don't think their team is very good. Although Scooble definitely can give up some home runs and the bullpen's bad. So I don't hate it. I don't love it. I'm kind of neutral on the Indians, and then if you're not playing 40% owned Haney, at least throw like a mini stack in there against him because he's gonna give up a home run or 2. And Texas does have some guys with power, so if you're not playing him, it makes sense to play a Ranger or 2 at least in one lineup.
Yeah, a little Adolis Garcia, maybe some Chris Crush Davis if he makes the order. He's 2.2K. I mean that seems like a good spot to play a 1% owned guy.
Look at Garcia. Garcia 3,400 on DraftKings still. Like this guy's never going to be 4K ever. He's just never going to be 4K. It doesn't matter what he does.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I think we hit on a lot of our favorite stacks, but as Ben said, just a lot of different directions you could go. One thing that I always recommend on these bigger slates is to play a bunch of these mini stacks. And I think I was with Bales. Oh no, I think I was with you last week when we had a really big slate, and it was that night that just everyone went crazy, and a bunch of those mini stacks are what took things down. Just because there were so many 30-point performances that you really do need to be perfect to take down these big GPPs.
Yeah, I have no problems if you just want to roll out like 3 mini stacks instead of 1 5-man stack on a slate like this. I have no problems with that at all. I actually think that's pretty smart, especially in like single entries because I don't know. We've talked about this in the past, but dude, I love to play single entry tournaments and make like an actual stack or something because like half the field is just playing their cash game lineup in a
Yeah,
single entry
yeah.
tournament.
They hit optimize on their favorite projection set and throw it in these big single entry GPPs, which is just crazy. I mean, there's so much game theory involved in constructing those GPP lineups that for them to be doing that is just like they're giving themselves minimal chance to win, to produce a 1% outcome.
Yeah, I completely agree. All right, if you guys have questions on stacks, go ahead and ask. We'll get into some of our plays at each position. Starting at catcher, not sure if I'll have money to spend up. I mean, I don't like to take Garver. Like I like Garver more against lefties, but if you're playing the Twins, you could throw him in there. Salvi Perez is cheap, man, 4,300 against Rich Hill. I don't mind him if you're going for the for over 4K at catcher, but what stuck out to me immediately was your boy James McCann. You called the home run yesterday. Perennial guy that hits lefties really well. He started off the season really cold, but he homered last night. Might be showing some signs of life. He's batting cleanup tonight. I've never been a Kyle Freeland guy, right? Like he doesn't strike people out, so there's a good chance some balls are going to be in play from McCann tonight. So yeah, I think that might be my top cheaper play today.
Yeah, I called that yesterday. I tweeted out like 5 or 6 hours before the slate lock. James McCann hits a home run tonight, and then he came through for us. But yeah, I definitely like going back there tonight against Freeland. The problem with Freeland is, like you said, yeah, he throws a lot of strikes, but he also keeps the ball, in the ballpark quite a bit. He's a ground ball pitcher, so I'm not crazy about it. Still not excited about what I see from McCann at the plate, but who knows? I mean, you see the ball leave the yard once, like he did last night, and maybe get something going for him. Yeah, I agree. Salvador Perez is pretty cheap at 4.3. I think if I'm spending up, it might be for Gary Sanchez. I'm kind of talking myself into this Yankee stack here. So 4.6K for Sanchez is pretty interesting. I mean, other than that, if I'm looking to save, maybe I go down to man. It's tough. It's tough for cheap here. I mean, Zach Collins cracked the lineup for the White Sox against Flaherty. That's an okay spot. They have a decent run total, but if I'm not completely punting, those other guys, McCann and Sanchez, are probably my go-tos.
Yeah, no problems with Sanchez. Kind of skipped over him, but I do think that is a good play. First base, my top play is going to be Freddie Freeman here. If you can afford him, I think he's the best spend up. And then Miggy Sano, man, he's relatively affordable in that low 4K tier. This is a guy, Sano is kind of like a Yankees player, right? Like we like to take him against bad pitchers. He struggles with kind of the craftier pitchers or the pitchers that actually have finesse and can pitch, but he can really feast on these bad pitchers. So this Dean Creamer seems like a guy that he could have some success against, and he's batting cleanup for our favorite stack tonight. So I definitely like him. Brandon Bell, I think fitting with the Giants in tournaments is interesting, and maybe Rowdy Tellez. I know Kluber is looking much better, but I've always been a Rowdy Tellez guy, so if he cracks the lineup, I would be interested in him for cheap at only 3K on DraftKings.
Yeah, for me, I think I'm going to live in that like low 4K range. Obviously, Freddie Freeman, fantastic play. Just a little expensive at 5.6K, especially since I don't think I'm going to play Heaney either. So I don't know if I'm going to have the money to get there. But that 4K range of Kirilloff, Sano from the Twins, and then Luke Voit leading off for the Yankees tonight at 4K. I think a Voit Glaber mini stack is pretty appealing for me on this slate. So I might play Voit and then be able to play like Kirilloff in the outfield. But Miguel Sano is a fantastic play tonight. So I love that call by you. Other than them, one interesting guy, 2.6K, Brandon Drury hitting third today for the Mets. I mean, if you're looking to double spend up at pitcher, a Drury McCann little mini stack might be the way to do it. What do you think about Brandon Drury? I mean, he hit a ninth inning home run last night. I don't know. It's definitely not exciting, but a 3-hitter, 2.6K, and against a guy that we don't think is very good in Kyle Freeland. I mean, I've played worse plays. Let's be honest.
Oh man, it's like the McCann effect, right? He saw one leave the yard, and now the breakout is on, right? He's just gonna get super hot. Um, no, I'm not playing Drury. There's some plays that I like that are under 3K, so I don't think you need to play Brandon Drury at first base. But if you want to, feel free. I don't have.
Don't worry, Drury's third base eligible, so I'll talk
Okay, we'll
about him
talk about him at
here
third.
again in a little bit. Yeah, don't worry, I'll bring him up again.
Yeah, I was saving my boy Kirilov for outfield just because if I was going to stack the Twins, I would want Sanoan. So I'll talk about him outfield.
Yeah.
Second base, there's some really good value at second base. I think if you're spending up the obvious guys, Ozzy Albies, um, is clearly the top play in my opinion. Rougned Odor is relatively cheap. My boy from earlier in the season was playing him a bunch. I think you could consider him. But I think Owen Miller from the Indians, right? Min price on DraftKings still 2K. He came up over the weekend. His price hasn't moved. He's been 2K since. But he's actually one of the Indians' better hitting prospects. We're fine targeting against Skubal in that bullpen. So I think if you're going to go double spend at pitcher, which I'm planning on doing so, going to need to find some value. And min-priced Owen Miller is probably my favorite option here at second base.
Yeah, I definitely like that. Yeah, if I'm not going Owen Miller, I'm definitely saving at the position. Maybe a guy like Taylor Walls. He cracked the lineup at 2.2K, hitting 6 for the Rays. They have a 5 run implied team total as well against Brad Keller, who is another pitcher that we are just not afraid of. Yeah, definitely a spend down for me. And I think I'm going to have one of those two guys in my lineup today for cheap. And that's going to help us, get to those priority pitchers that we want and get to the top of the leaderboards.
Yeah, I agree. Third base, I think, is really straightforward. I want to play Josh Donaldson because we're playing Twins. And if I'm not using Josh Donaldson, I want to play Anthony Rendon because on DraftKings he's only 4,400, and that's just too cheap for Anthony Rendon. I don't care what he's done the whole season. It's just too cheap. So I think those are the clear two best plays. You can always use Jose Ramirez or Devers or somebody like that, especially if you're stacking. But I think just overall, those two are the best plays for me. And then you have Gio Urshela, who's under 4K as well, that you could consider.
Yeah, that was going to be where I lead off. DraftKings is doing this fun thing again where where they price Gio Urshela down for no reason at all. So him under 4K is very interesting. Josh Donaldson, I feel like he's pretty underpriced at 4.1K. Obviously, we love to target him against a lefty, but Dean Kramer is not intimidating at all, and obviously the Twins are one of our favorite stacks. So Donaldson is interesting, and you heard me talk about Rendon when I brought up the Angel stack before. So yeah, those guys are definitely who I'm interested in. Another cheap target could potentially be Evan Longoria if you go with that San Francisco Giants stack that I brought up. And then here is my honorary mention of Jonathan VR for a potential Mets stack tonight.
It's been like over a week and we're still playing Jonathan VR. It's just insane. But yeah, I don't think I've played him since that night he hit that home run. I can't go back to him, man. I'm quitting while
I
I'm
haven't
ahead on
either.
VR.
Yeah,
I'm quitting while I'm
I
ahead.
feel like I ran pure with the one home run. We just talked about this.
Yeah.
But hey, listen, VR, Drury, McCann, Lindor. I mean, I've played worse stacks.
I've probably played worse stacks as well. If I could go back, especially when I first started playing DFS and had no idea what I was doing.
And 3.7 implied runs for this lineup feels like a lot.
I know.
Where are they getting four runs from?
It
has to be from the top of the order, right? Like, or DeGrom drives in 3, I said in Discord today, if DeGrom was hitting 6 today, I wouldn't complain about the lineup.
Oh man. Yeah, that lineup is just rough right now.
That's pretty bad.
Shortstop, you can always use Tatis Jr., even though I like Burns. You can always use him. You can always use Trey Turner, right? Guys like that. Earlier in the day, I was going to be interested in Ahmed Rosario at 3,800. And like you said, you have Gleyber Torres at 3,700. But our boy is back, Rueb. Adalberto Mondesi back in the lineup for the Royals. He's $2,500 on DraftKings, a legitimate free square against Rich Hill. Another reason why you don't have to play Andrew Haney tonight. You can stuff in Owen Miller for 2K, Adalberto Mondesi for 2,500. There's just no reason to pay 6,200 for a pitcher on this slate when you got these bats that are this cheap, man.
Yeah, I see what you're going with there. Yeah, man. Oh, I wish they just threw Mondesi back at the top of the order. Like, get this Carlos Santana hitting second stuff out of here. Let's get Mondesi at the top.
Dude,
Get
but
the
Rich
protection
Hill,
of Whit
I don't
Merrifield.
actually know this. Like, I'd have to look, but for whatever reason, Rich Hill feels like someone that you could steal on, even though he
Oh, you
it just
just
feels like
close
you
your
could
eyes
steal
and
on him.
just
Yeah,
picture that big lefty leg kick, right? You
yeah,
see it
yeah.
crossing over the knee, getting a good jump. Yeah, I could totally see that. Wow, I completely actually missed that. The Mondesi is
This is what I'm
back.
saying. I
So
don't think people are gonna play him. He's batting seventh. No, he
nobody's
hasn't
gonna
played
play
the
him.
whole year. People have forgot he even exists. So they're just gonna run and play Ahmed Rosario for over $1,000 more. I'm just gonna take Mondesi.
Yeah, I think my favorite play personally is Glaber, who I mentioned before. That price just really stood out for me um, when it came out. And then, yeah, but definitely Rosario's in play, and then your boy Mondesi is definitely interesting. And then if you wanted to play some lower on guys, Brandon Crawford, I guess he exploded the other day, but not someone that I love to target. It's not 2015 anymore, but yeah. I probably I'm gonna look to spend down here at shortstop. I feel like the outfield and really first base is where I'm gonna spend a lot of my money, and I don't have a ton of it since I'm playing all these priority pitchers. Got to give a shout out to Joey Wendell though. I think he's going completely under the radar for how good of a season he's having. Right, like play a little Wendell Walls mini stack at what do you call it? At shortstop or third base and second there. I kind of like that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I was gonna bring up some of these Rays outfielders, so we can just use that as a segue. But we didn't mention the Rays when we were talking about stacks. But I mean, I'm looking at them right here on Betcom. They got a nice 5.8 team total. For as much as we like to take lefties against them on the mound, I like to play them against righties. Keller, I feel like normally is someone that we like to stack against, and it's just such a big slate. People are forgetting about it. But the Rays, they're hot. They've won a bunch of games in a row, and they're good against righties. So I don't mind that Wendell call at all. I like their outfield, right? We like Meadows. We like Rosarena. Those guys have big power. You could throw Brandon Lowe in at second. So I think the Rays are a good low-owned stack today, and I'm interested in some of their outfield. But outside of the Rays guys that I just mentioned, Twins guys, Kepler and Kirilloff, I think are great plays. The Braves guys, you have Acuna and Ozuna. Both are really strong plays as well. I'll start looking for some value, but I think I highlighted the top of the position pretty well. Who do you like at outfield today?
I just had to, we got to call out Sam real quick. He's blowing up
I
Discord,
know.
asking us questions, not in the YouTube
We're
chat.
on a stream, and he's just asking us questions
Yeah,
like it's noon, like
you know,
just like a normal day.
he's asking us about Musgrove. I mean, come on, guy, tune into the stream, be a company man. So just, I will have to, we'll have to point him to this segment of the show and call him out here a half hour into the show. So, yeah. No, but yeah, all right. In the outfield, obviously the Twins guys. We got Kirilloff. We got Kepler. Kepler's gonna anytime he's leading off and under 4K, he is just a mega chalk. I could see him approaching like 50% in single entry tournaments today. At what ownership do you think you wouldn't play Kepler today?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I think it's tough to want to be overweight on a team on this slate, just given that it's 13 games. But the Twins spot is just so good. So I think if I was playing a lot of teams, man, I would probably be close to that number, right? I'd probably be close to 60% of him, I think. Especially at his price, because he has power, right? Especially when he's leading off. So I don't think it's someone that I would be like going out of my way to fade just because he does have power. So even if you one off him, I think he can still get there.
Yeah, I think another cheap guy that's interesting. We just got the Giants lineup while we were live here a couple minutes ago. Alex Dickerson hitting third for them. I already talked about how great that team total is and how we're not really afraid of Corbin Martin. We definitely are afraid of Corbin Burns, but not afraid of Corbin Martin. So I think he's interesting just as another cheap guy. Look at all these cheap guys that we're finding here. Ben, so that we don't have to play Heaney. I mean, we're all over it today.
Yeah.
Another guy, I mean, Andrew Vaughn, still 2.3K, homered again last night. I mean, what does this guy have to do to get a price bump?
Yeah, I made the worst 2v2 last night, dude. I took James McCann and Andrew Vaughn and switched it to Eric Haase and Eddie Rosario. Like just the just the worst 2v2 ever. Two home runs yanked from my lineup. Just terrible. Yeah, but we're big Andrew Vaughn fans on this stream. Like of course you could play Andrew Vaughn.
Yeah, without a doubt. I what do you call it? I was fielding Sam's questions while you brought up the Rays outfield. Did you bring up your boy Austin Meadows and just
Yes.
talk about
Yeah.
him a little bit?
Love
Yeah,
love the
I
Rays
mean
outfield
you
tonight.
love him.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
Kellen, I
definitely
feel
love
like
him.
if this was like an 8-game slate, everyone would be jamming the Rays in, right? This would be a popular stack.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think that the Indians outfield, Luplow hitting fourth at 3.5K against a lefty. We know that he has the power upside against lefties. Definitely interested there. Yeah, this feels like the more that we talk about it, I am absolutely getting in these high price pitchers and playing a bunch of these like really good one offs with some Twins and some Rays, maybe a Rendon in there. I mean, there's so many places to go. I mean, we're not playing Heaney. It's
No,
official.
there's no reason. Look at Upton's old as dirt, but he's 3,300. Clint Frazier's under 3K. The Texas guys are all cheap. Like, there's just no reason, in my opinion, to play Haney. Like, there's quality cheap hitters on this slate, and there's quality expensive pitchers. I don't understand. I don't want to play. I don't want to play him today.
Yeah, I definitely could not agree more. Just us talking through it here just really reaffirms that feeling that we were having. Some questions in the chat rolling through. Did we mention the Athletics as a stack? No, we didn't. I definitely like some of them as one-off options. Olsen at first base kind of stood out as a potential play. Yeah, I mean, they were really hot. They were definitely really hot. Logan Gilbert is a guy whose stuff I respect. He's just struggled with control in those first two starts. I was on him. I'm off him today at 5K. He just has a short leash and a lot of control issues, but definitely can give up a lot of hard contact. So any A's interest for you?
Yeah, I think the A's weren't like they didn't immediately jump out to me, but I think that goes back to what I said at the top of the stream. If we didn't talk about a specific stack that you really like, I would not take that as a negative today because there's just so many good spots, right? Like if you guys have you watching this, if the viewers have a little bit different stack rankings than us, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing because there's just tons of good spots. So I think like personally I would probably put a team like the Rays above the A's, but the A's have power, and they're exactly the type of stack that you want to target in tournaments because when they have a big night, it's typically like a 15-run night with a couple home runs.
I mean, this team just a month ago was the hottest hitting team in baseball. Olsen was a guy we were jamming in our lineups every single night, lefty on lefty. It really didn't matter. He was a priority play. So absolutely interested there with him. Another question, just we touched on it earlier, but for those of you who missed it, I feel like this is a popular question tonight. DeGrom or Scherzer in a DraftKings GPP tonight? Just let the people know, Ben, which way are you leaning there? We touched on it earlier, but we've talked through a lot here. Your opinions might have changed in the last 40 minutes.
Yeah, I do like want to see updated ownership projections a little bit before lock because I think there's a good chance DeGrom ends up pretty low owned on this slate at his price, but I still think I'm leaning slightly towards Max on tonight.
Yeah, me as well. Just that $1,000 savings could go a long way. We found a lot of value bats, but if we don't have to go with them, then we won't. We'll always take a little bit of savings for a guy that we think is a comparable play to DeGrom. Yeah, Frosty is stacking the Padres, so just to let you know, Ben, no surprise there.
Oh, no, wouldn't want it any other way, Frosty. Would not want it any other way.
All right, perfect. I think we covered all the positions there. I think it's time for the home run calls, Ben. I mean, we've been killing it this year when me and you are on pods
Yeah,
together with these home run calls. So
we
we
have.
we really we have some big shoes to fill here.
All right. Typically I allow the guest to go first, but I'm just gonna get mine out of the way, and I'm gonna take my boy. He's won me a lot of money this year, going right back. Alex Kirilloff tonight.
I love that. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have Kirilloff in my lineup tonight. So you saying that is huge. I'm gonna go with who I think is maybe my favorite play on the slate. I'm gonna go with a Glaber Torres home run tonight in the first inning to the short porch in right field off Steven Matz. Takes it the other way, barely
First
gets
inning.
over. Yeah, just
He's
a
just
typical Yankee Stadium
what's
home run.
the exit velocity and launch angle on that one?
I think
He's
it'll
getting through.
probably be low launch angle. It's going to be a line drive. I told you it barely goes over, but yeah, like 103. Decent off the bat, but not some historic stuff. But yeah, it just barely gets over that right field wall there, Yankee Stadium.
I love it. Thank you guys for tuning in. Big slate tonight. Big tournaments across. Hopefully, you guys cook up some good lineups tonight. Tomorrow is Wednesday, so I'll be back with Bales for a stream tomorrow. If you want access to Rubes and I both our core plays, Bales, Sriracha, AC, everyone's core plays, dfskarma.com/MLB. You can sign up. Any new week or month subscriber gets free optimizer access for a week. So it's a good time to join up if you're thinking about it. You can check out our free content on the website as well. That's dfskarma.com. And with that being said, good luck tonight, guys, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.